They were few and far between, no question about it, but even in the decade of the 1970s, there were those ladies who brought that little something extra to the car chases and movies they were involved in. They all had a part to play, and made the screen that much more exciting when we first laid eyes on them. MFP presents 10 car ladies of the 70s. A last-minute replacement in Mad Max, actress Joanne Samuel was brought in to play wife Jessie of title character Max Rockatansky in this 1979 Australian classic. The story centers on a futuristic pre-apocalyptic world where a pursuit officer tries to enforce the law in a time where street gangs are taking over the highways in Australian cities and towns. While taking time off after the brutal murder of his partner, the character of Max, played by Mel Gibson, decides to go travelling with his wife and young son. It is here that the story kicks in, as wife Jessie is soon confronted by the same gang that killed his partner and is in search of Max. Her unrelated involvement soon puts Jessie within target of the gang, who wanted to pay the price for an unintentional maiming of one of their members. Brought in to replace actress Rosie Bailey after she suffered a motorbike accident with stuntman Grant Page on their way to the set. Samuel was cast to play Jessie Rockatansky, who for the most part of the film is absent, yet towards the second half of the film is seen driving the family 1975 red with graphics HJ Holden Sandman with a GM 5-litre 308 V8 engine with 240 brake horsepower. A popular vehicle for the surfing and drive-in youth culture of the time, the Sandman panel van produced by Holden and Ford Australia was a two-seater wagon-style car that was an extension of the workman's ute that was empty in the back to accommodate either tools or other personal items and even sleeping facilities. In the case of the Sandman used in the film, it was said to have been borrowed from one of the crew's young mechanics, as was seen. Not 100% stock standard, the Holden was modified with an HJ Statesman Caprice front end, further modified with rectangular Ford XC GXL headlights, giving it a unique look. Only given limited screen time with the Holden V8, Jessie is shown to be more than capable behind the wheel of the family wagon, and is only hindered in her escape due to an unforeseen miscalculation. The whereabouts of the Sandman is not fully clear, as it was said it was returned back to its owner, but the car, much like its driver, left an impact on the Mad Max franchise.
Well.
I got a lift.
A 1978 easygoing movie about a young man's obsession with a stingray, Corvette Summer has the distinction of being the follow-up to actor Mark Hamill's breakout role as Luke Skywalker the previous year in a little film called Star Wars. It is here we see the young actor play the role of a high schooler in search of a stolen custom 1973 Chevrolet Corvette C3 he personally helped design and build for his school after he saved it from demolition from a wrecking yard. On his quest to get back what was stolen, Hamill's character of Kenny comes across would-be prostitute Vanessa, played by Annie Potts in a first starring feature film role, who picks him up and helps him along the way. Seen driving in a custom 1971 Chevrolet Chevy van, which is said was converted by a no longer existing company in California called Holiday Wheels Inc. Like the titular and controversial for purists custom C3 Corvette within the film, the Vanessa as advertised on the side of the van was reflective of the youth culture of the time within the 1970s of America. Initially used as a place of business for the fresh-on-the-job Potts character, who is moving to Las Vegas in order to further her career, it is shown within to feature red shag carpeting, a bed, a small refrigerator, and other modifications to make it a mobile home/brothel. With Potts' character Vanessa played as a somewhat quirky, no-nonsense, independent, easygoing chick as it were, her chemistry with Hamill's character plays well within the film, as she brings her own personal charm to the story, and is a fun and memorable inclusion in this offbeat comedy.
My final offer, $20.
Roger Corman's Death Race 2000 and its cast of colourful characters seems to be that one film where there is something for everyone. Still new to the industry, Simone Griffith plays co-driver Annie to David Carradine's driver of Frankenstein, as the story revolves around a cross-country race where the object is to score as many points as possible by running down people in this futuristic automotive bloodbath of carnage. With the participants including the likes of pre-Rocky Sylvester Stallone and pre-Karate Kid fame Martin Cove, the film along with Griffith would have other female co-drivers and racers, such as Roberta Collins playing Matilda the Hun, and Corman alumni and favourite Mary Warnoff playing Calamity Jane. Simone's character is depicted as a type of insert into the race that had gathered some resistance as it was backed by a tyrannical government. Though playing the role of co-driver and navigator, Annie was also placed as a saboteur, given a relation to the head of the resistance movement, and brought in to take out its star driver. Annie is eventually tested and made a jump behind the wheel of Frankenstein's monster to see just where her loyalty lies. As with all racing cars within the film, Frankenstein's Charlevette was a fiberglass body placed on a Volkswagen chassis, created by automobile designer custom car builder Dick Dean for a cost of $7,000 each. Made to slightly resemble a Corvette, the monster was powered by a flat-six Corvair 2.7-litre engine with a 140 to 180 horsepower output range, and was often filmed undercranked by director Paul Bartel to give these cars more speed than was available on public roads, with no real permits to be driving on. Simone was chosen for her role over former Miss Universe contestant turned actress Leslie McRae, who opted to play the character of Cleopatra instead, due to the required nudity to play Annie. Griffith would continue her career in Hollywood, and would primarily feature on TV in the 1980s, yet is mostly remembered for her performance in Death Race 2000.
I missed him.
Take some practice.
Before it comes easy?
It never comes easy.
I think someone's knocking on the door.
Being the first half of the title of the film Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, Mary Coombs, played by Suzanne George, is taken along for a ride in one of many movie car lovers' favourite outings. A simple premise of a down-on-his-luck race car driver and his mechanic partner looking to finance their careers in the professional circuit through the robbery of a small-town supermarket. The character of driver Larry, played by Peter Fonda, spends the night before with local girl Mary, who is not happy with his sneaking off, and decides to follow and join up by first following him in her grandfather's 1949 Chevrolet Advanced Design 3100 pickup, and then taking the keys to his first getaway car, a blue 1966 Chevy Impala with a 327 small block V8 with 250 to 275 horsepower based on the badge's label. While later on in the chase, a second getaway vehicle is picked up in the form of a sublime green 1969 Dodge Charger RT with a 440 Magnum engine, 375 horsepower V8. The English-born actress George had only recently before made her move to the US Hollywood market with an unforgettable performance in the Sam Peckinpah-directed controversial cult favourite Straw Dogs, and had now decided under the advice of English director John Hugh to take on this role in the States and follow up with the character of town floozy Mary. Often at times seen causing more trouble for the getaway crew, also remembered by actor Adam Rourke playing Deke by forcefully joining up with the two men on their escape to the border. Turning out to be a surprise hit for 20th Century Fox, Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry still manages to bring in new crowds even to this day, and George's over-the-top antics and performance helped this film to be a fun car chase movie treat to return to time and again.
Dirty Mary and Crazy Larry. They don't call them that for nothing.
Good morning, Angels.
Morning, Charlie.
One part of trio of a PI team in the hit show Charlie's Angels, Farrah Fawcett would find her image posted on the walls of many young men thanks to her role in this 1970s TV crime drama. Consisting of original members Sabrina, Kelly and Jill, played by Kate Jackson, Jacqueline Smith and Fawcett, who made up a group of 3 ex-police officers turned private investigators for the Charles Townsend Agency, run by voice-on-the-phone boss Charlie, played by John Forsythe. With Farrah only being a featured player in the first season, and as a guest in later episodes, being the only blonde of the original group, she would become the standout and favourite of many young men, as the sex appeal was at its height with the show's release. Having been the then wife of other 70s TV icon, $6 million man Lee Majors, Farrah was already making a name for herself with The Star on the Rise, and it was no accident that she would be paired with what was then the top of the Mustang line for 1976 in the form of the new Mustang II Cobra, which came with a 2-barrel 5-litre V8 with a 122 to 139 horsepower engine. With the Ford Motor Company being a sponsor of the show, all lead characters were given Ford vehicles to drive, ranging from a Thunderbird to a Pinto and a Mustang II Gear Coupe. Farrah and a white with blue Mustang Cobra Fastback became the more memorable combination, as the Mustang name had taken a hit come the mid-1970s, due to what had been seen as a loss of the muscle and pony car performance of the 60s. Gone was the sleek curvy look of old, as the 1974-78 Mustang II lost a lot of its 1965 appeal in favour of a more compact, sharper angled body shape. Seen sporadically throughout the series, as the Cobra would later be given to Angel's replacement Cheryl Ladd's character Chris, it was Farrah and her image sitting on top the white and blue Mustang that remains most remembered.
You know, you girls go through cars like Evel Knievel goes through motorcycles.
Sweetheart, if you catch me, you can have me.
Inspired by the true-life race of the Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash, Gumball rallies the story of a random group of scofflaws who partake in a coast-to-coast illegal race in retaliation to the then new 55-mile-per-hour speed limit, 2 of which are played by housewife Alice, played by Susan Flannery, and young friend Jane, played by Joanne Samuel. Driving in a black 1969 Porsche 911 E-Targa, which came with a flat-six 21 engine, producing 140 horsepower and a top speed of 134 miles per hour, the ladies taking part in the race were loosely inspired, as were the characters of the Cannonball Run films of Jill and Marcy, on Donna Mae Mims' all-female right bra racing team. Though both ladies within this film were presented more conservatively than the real-life Mims and her crew were, there were minor hints of usage of their sexuality to gain any advantage within the race, though this mostly resulted in some overconfidence misplaced on their vehicle in one scene in particular. Requested to be shot for real, and quoted speed for speed by stuntman turned director Chuck Bale, many of the actors were told to participate as much as they could in the driving. Originally written for Allison Jane to have won the race, it was said that this was changed by the director, who was not in favour of this idea, much to the dismay of Susan Flannery, who had felt there was too much of an element of chauvinism from the director, working against herself and Joanne, as stated by co-star Nicholas Pryor in a podcast. Underused within the story, as were most of the supporting characters, the inclusion of the female Porsche team was a welcome one among audience who still cherished the film, and despite the setback of the script changes, the characters of Alice and Jane brought in a wonderful element that even an ordinary housewife and a friend could break out and take on the boys in a race where there were no limits.
Open your eyes! Keep to the right of the truck! Open your eyes! God damn it!
Based on a true story, The Sugarland Express would be famed director Steven Spielberg's first theatrical film before his big break with his 1975 blockbuster, Jaws. Starring a young Goldie Hawn in what was one of her most dramatic roles at the time, as she was mostly known for playing more comedy roles than skits as the ditzy type sexy blonde. Focusing on a story that originally took place in 1969, a recently released from prison mother named Lou Jean, played by Hawn, is refused the return of her baby. She then orders a waiting to be released incarcerated partner to escape his pre-release center to take back their son, who is now in foster care. Initially escaping with an elderly couple visiting the center, which William Atherton's character of Clovis was placed in, both he and Lou Jean leave with the couple in their 1956 Buick Roadmaster Riviera with an available 322 cubic inch V8 engine, offering between 200 to 255 horsepower. It is after the older driver is pulled over for disturbing traffic by driving too slow do we get the first chase in the film, as Lou Jean steals the vehicle and is pursued by Highway Officer Slide, played by Michael Sachs. After a short chase which cost the production a camera due to a head-on collision, Lou Jean and Clovis kidnap the police officer and take his patrol car to make the way to Sugarland City to get their son back. Fleeing in a 1973 Dodge Polara patrol vehicle, which came with a pursuit package rated at 280 horsepower and a top speed of 149 miles per hour, a cross-state chase gets underway, followed by a slew of other police vehicles who follow closely at a steady pace. Wanting to have his unique touch added to the film, Spielberg used the Panavision Panaflex camera, which at smaller size was able to give the first introduction of a 360-degree panning shot within the moving vehicle itself during the pursuit. Only being involved in one chase behind the wheel at the beginning of the film, Goldie Hawn would spend the majority of her role as a passenger who carried a lot of the story through her sporadic emotions and charm, along with a dramatic presence helping further her career and breaking out from a typical blonde chick persona.
Come on, lover boy, move it. Or did you lose your nerve?
Taking part as the lead title character in the first feature-length film Bobbie Jo and the Outlaw, Miss World USA, and future Wonder Woman Lynda Carter was to take on the role of ride or die gal Bobbie Jo in this 1977 low-budget action piece. Directed by Mark L. Lester, who would later go on to direct the Schwarzenegger classic Commando, Bobbie Jo tells the story of a small-town country beauty played by Carter, who hooks up with a cowboy/outlaw wannabe, Lyle Wheeler, played by former ordained child evangelist turned actor Marjoe Gortner, who was chosen over the then still unknown Sylvester Stallone, who was the runner-up for the part, who in the first 5 minutes of the film is seen stealing a 1970 Ford Mustang orange grabber, said within the film to have a 454 Cobra engine, which was then never an option offered by Ford. The 1970 Mustang grabber was a special option at the time, which came out in limited numbers and color choices, which were given a similar C-stripe as offered in the 1969 Boss Mustang the year before. Being only 24 at the time, Carter would later break out the following year in a signature role as the comic book heroine Wonder Woman, and would later denounce this film for its exploitation and nudity, as this was the first and only time outside a deleted appearance from Apocalypse Now this occurred in her career, where Carter would later become a born-again Christian and no longer interested in such acting roles. Though typical for the time in its rebellious youth against the system message of the 1970s, the film carries some wonderful chases and shootout scenes, and although Carter's lack of involvement behind the wheel keeps her from a higher spot on this list, being the title character, and one of the few times we see her play a more outlaw role, makes this a must for any fan of 70s action and chases, especially for Lynda Carter's presence within the film.
Oh boy, that was some trip.
Get it on, baby. I'll see you later. Surely hope so.
Produced in the time when the 1970s blaxploitation era of Hollywood was starting to launch, Cleopatra Jones, starring statuesque model-turned-actress Tamara Dobson as the lead role of US Special Agent Cleopatra Jones, would help begin the familiar storyline of a righteous figure in the black community who would lead the charge to remove narcotics from the youth of her community by any means necessary. With the then Guinness record holder for tallest leading female actress Dobson taking the lead at 6'2", Cleopatra Jones would portray her character as seen in the similar likes of Richard Roundtree's Shaft, not afraid to use her fists and weapons to get the job done, with the addition of seeing the character drive around in a black and silver 1973 Chevrolet Corvette C3. In order to try to portray the US Special Agent as a type of female James Bond character, part of the appeal was seeing her personal right of choice customized. It has been said 5 Corvettes were commissioned by Warner Brothers for the film. These included such features as a car phone and a hidden compartment by the passenger's side door, carrying an array of weapons, including a Mac 11, several grenades, and a Colt Diamondback revolver. In addition, in order to help the tall actress enter in and out of her vet with ease, a special T-top was put in place that would lift up automatically for Dobson when the driver's door was opened. Showcased in the film is a wonderful car chase between the Corvette and a 1970 Ford Galaxy 500, along with a 1967 Mustang, where the high-speed, well-edited and directed driving leads from the LA streets to the all-car chase familiar Los Angeles River. Being a modest hit, the movie and actress Dobson were given favourable reviews, enough so to warrant a 1975 sequel, and the chase sequence remains a highlight for many fans of the film, with Dobson's character being one of the very few women in the 1970s to get her own bullet-style car chase.
Man, that is some kind of woman.
Go, girl, go!
I'm going. I got the metal to the pedal and the thing to the floor.
Initially rejected by the film studio, when Sally Field was cast in a Smokey and the Bandit part that helped her to break out of TV and into Hollywood stardom, Bandit star Burt Reynolds was insistent on hiring the lesser-known Fields, who had made a small name for herself in shows such as Gidget and The Flying Nun. Not being seen as sexy enough for Along for the Ride, wannabe touring dancer Kerry, to be our lead of Burt Reynolds' Bandit's passenger, Sally had made an impression on the then #1 box office star who insisted she was perfect for the role. Based on a story written by personal stunt performer and close friend and housemate Hal Needham, Reynolds was able to get Universal Studios interested in the first-time director's project, as long as he was to take lead in the film. Playing on the still popular at the time bootleggers outrunning the Southern Law story, the plot would see the character Bo Bandit Darville perform as blocker for a truckload of illegal beer being transported from Texas to Georgia, on a bet that it could not be done in under 28 hours. Along the way, Bandit picks up a runaway bride from the side of the road played by Fields, who had initially made her escape from her wedding in a 1973 Chevrolet Impala custom coupe, which carried a 350 cubic inch V8 engine, rated at 145 horsepower, and a cross-country chase takes place by a would-be husband and his father, Sheriff Buford T. Justice, played by comedy legend Jackie Gleason. Seen fleeing in a 1977 black with gold Pontiac Firebird Trans Am as a number of high-speed driving and stunts take place, some of which were to be undertaken by Sally's character, who was given the handle early into the chase of Frog due to her constant jumping about and for other reasons. Turning out to be a central plot to the story, Sally Field's character became a fan favourite after giving a wonderful performance, so much so that it led to a real-life romance between herself and co-star Burt Reynolds.
I want to jump something else! I want to jump a house! I want to jump something!
Oh, jump me.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like, subscribe and bell icon in order to help this channel grow and to bring you more content such as this one, as your support is what keeps this channel going.